For the Christmas season of 2000, gamers were treated with a PS1 movie tie-in no one could quite say was needed. Yes, based on the blockbuster About the One Not So Merry, directed by Ron Howard and starring Jim Carrey. The game also came out on PC and on Sega's Dreamcast, but the PlayStation version will be the one I put on blast. From what I can tell, they're all mostly identical, so on with the video. Up Mount Crumpet to the pinnacle. A brief cutscene sets up the game we're about to play as we watch the Grinch's gadget blueprints get blown away. Conveniently, he has access to a vacuum tube system to travel to Whoville and the surrounding locations, where we go to find the blueprints following the plot summation. But searching for blueprints isn't all we'll do. We also get a list of missions to exact vengeance on every Who. As we find new items and gather blueprints to make our contraptions, more of these missions become completable. We're given more action. Surprisingly, the game is actually fine from a conceptual standpoint. It's in the execution where we find disappointment. It was a ballsy decision to let us be the bad guy. In a kid's game, this isn't frequent to come by. Then again, what was the alternative? Playing as Cindy Lou? Now that's an idea that would have really blew. But anyway, you may have heard this game called a platformer. Well, you were hearing from a shameless misinformer. Look how flat this place is. There's barely anywhere to jump. You just roam around, mindlessly collecting shit like a chump. Because there's only 4 levels, missions are dragged out way too long. They're so boring. Wandering these barren wastelands is enough to get anyone snoring. You could call pole swinging platforming. I'd call that a stretch. And these controls, they're quite sketch. To turn around on poles, you have to hit square and triangle. Anyone familiar with the controller knows that'll put you in a tangle. The controls for the most part are passable though. Sometimes stiff, sometimes slippery, but I've played worse, you know. If anything, it's a stealth game. There's lots of sneaking about to be found, which is tedious and predictable. Security always makes the same exact rounds. Ah well, at least it doesn't claim it's a power-up to tiptoe, unlike a certain game we likely all know. Yeah, it's not technically horrible, just repetitive and slow. A grating walking simulator through Whoville snow. Mediocre PS1 games can usually at least provide unintentional humor, but even in that area, this game isn't much of a bloomer. I was really looking forward to making fun of this game. I feel cheated. The only time I laughed was when I watched this Who get yeeted. Now, I played this game as a kid, and I found it bizarre. Due to its cryptic nature, I didn't make it very far. There's this puzzle where you play as Max. I couldn't make much sense of it. It's far from a Christmas blessing. I got sick of trying to figure it out, and beat it with random guessing. Check out this mission in City Hall that I would have never completed without getting help online. Would you ever guess that the secret here is to breathe rank breath like a swine? How does a bad smell make visible laser security? No wonder this game fell into obscurity. Doing this vague guesswork is the game's only real challenge. The rest is far too easy. Too aggravating, though, to be considered breezy. This is a very odd game, with no conventional enemies or attacks. The Whos aren't threatening, just annoying. I wish I could give them a good whack. Leave me alone, kid. I'm trying to launch a rotten egg into someone's home. Get out of here. I don't like your tone.
Hey, who are you, Big Daddy?
What? These guys can freaking teleport, but you can't do much but avoid or temporarily stun. I feel like I'm turning into the Grinch. I'm coming undone. These Whos are all assholes, just like in Ron Howard's retelling. They prove the Grinch right and need a good quelling. Look how aggro the cops are. Shoot first, ask questions later. Obnoxious teens throwing snowballs. The only respectable character is the narrator. Speaking of which, the game's presentation is quite solid, in spite of most of the rest being squalid. I really like the music and the sound effects are well done. It's clear there was effort put in. It's just not fun. The narrator speaks in rhyme just like me. Mount Crumpet is visible in the distance, a cool detail of high pedigree. They did a great job building the world at first glance. It's just a world I don't want to be in by chance. The game also gave some difficulties of the technical kind. After playing about a third of the way through, I found my save file maligned. My memory card doesn't act up with any other game, so I don't know what happened here. That's lame. Oh well, I'm not doing a replay just to see what the last 2 levels have to give. That's an experience I'm not about to relive. The game did me a favor to spare me from its excretions. Without this generosity, I'd have probably played it to completion. That's because it's one of those titles that's not so bad it'll make you rage quit, but bad enough to not really enjoy it. It's painfully mediocre, with no real genre identity. It has no reason to exist, and belongs with other movie tie-in obscenities that nobody asked for and don't make any damn sense. It's a footnote in PS1 history, and if I thought it'd be anything else, I'm dense. Alright, that's that. Cut the tape. We're done. What? You're telling me there was...
Another one!
Yes, that wasn't the movie's only tie-in. There was another, released sometime after, on Nintendo's Game Boy Color. So the first thing I noticed in this opening cutscene, is that a Who pinup girl? What the hell? And look at everyone else. They look like cadavers. Also, you may have noticed that I'm no longer speaking in rhyme. Well, this game didn't bother, so why should I? Seriously, what a weird opening narration for a game based on a Dr. Seuss property. I know that it's technically based on the Ron Howard movie, but still, they had the book and the classic TV special right there. They could have just ripped some lines from them to actually make it feel like a Dr. Seuss property. Why bother rewriting it in such a boring manner? Well, that's really neither here nor there. How is the gameplay? Inoffensive but boring. There's really nothing technically wrong with it, and honestly, it's probably a decent spin on the Pac-Man formula, but almost immediately after I began playing, I wanted to stop, and had to push myself to get through a few levels. Something about it is just grating. Conceptually, it doesn't make any sense. Why do the Who's want to bum rush you, other than that they are stand-ins for the ghosts in Pac-Man? But it would be a fool's errand to overthink a game like this. This is basically another stealth game, and the Who's you're trying to avoid have no real pattern, and no real AI either. They just move at random. You have to take your time and wait for favorable movement in order to proceed with stealing the gifts, the stand-in for Pac-Man's pellets. But you also have to hurry because there's a time limit. The controls in this game can be a bit overzealous too. The Grinch often keeps moving even after I've let go of the button. If you keep playing like I did for some reason, eventually you get to play as Max. Which is pointless. He controls almost exactly like the Grinch. There is a jump button with Max, but I couldn't figure out why. Can I jump over these barrels? Nope. So we've now reviewed the games based on the Ron Howard flick, and we're left with one more, from 2006. Actually, it came out 1 year after, but 2007 wouldn't have rhymed. Cue laughter. This one's not based on the film, but rather the original classic story, so let's see if it can capture that classic's glory. Without further ado, onward we press to How the Grinch Stole Christmas on Nintendo DS.
Another one!
So yeah, I'm rhyming once more. This game put in the effort, so I will too, for sure. So let's start playing. Well, this is an uninspired, poor excuse for a DS game. How dismaying. I know I probably sound like just a hater, but there's nothing more to this than the last handheld title, despite coming out 2 consoles later. The DS was a system capable of so much more. What's their excuse for churning out such a bore? You use a grand total of 1 button to snatch up gifts and decor. Traveling through mazes, the Grinch must avoid the Who's, who are apparently blind, not inclined to do more than mindlessly drift back and forth, endlessly, like guards on graveyard shift. Seemingly nothing happens if the Grinch is caught by anyone other than the old ladies. You flash like you've taken damage, but aren't sent down to Hades. If caught by an old lady, a minigame will be triggered, the only part of the game in which the touchscreen was considered. How this minigame works, I haven't the slightest clue. I just tapped at random on its debut, and won somehow, allowed to pass through. The second time I game overed. That's back to the beginning. Boo. I experienced no joy from exploring these mazes. Curses. It reminded me of the Crazy Castle franchise, but much worses. This game runs at a snail's pace, and there's a weird glitch. You can't just let the Who's pass and go around them. They'll reappear without a hitch. So yeah, none of these games are good. Not horrible on a technical level, just dull as wood. Not that I expected them to be great or anything. A classic story doesn't always have much material to translate to a video game. And the Grinch himself doesn't have much of a character beyond,
I hate Christmas!
I hope you enjoyed my stupid video and found it entertaining. If you did, you're a subscriber I could potentially be gaining. If you think I've earned it, please sub and hit the bell. Be notified of future stupid videos you might like as well. Please hit the thumbs up button too on this leaky faucet review, and I hope to see you again. Thank you. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, get out of here.